Hey guys, Pro1701 here, and today we're just going to do kind of a quick fix video while I'm out taking a nice walk. And today we're going to be looking at 3 bad Doctor Who stories that I think modern Doctor Who fans should watch. And of course, depending on what's going to appeal to somebody, depends on what they like. But say you have someone who likes kind of the fun filler stories like the Crimson Horror or Unicorn and the Wasp, just something like that. Something that's nice and fun, something that's not part of the overall narrative. I think a good one is The Horns of Nimon. I like The Horns of Nimon. It's objectively bad. It is objectively bad. And the production values for it are infamously bad. And of course, Soldeed is hilariously over the top. But if you want just something fun and campy and silly and basically a pantomime, I think of Horns of Nimon as like a pantomime. If you go into it with those expectations, it's actually a lot of fun. Horns of Nimon has a really strong rewatchability for me. One, Romana, Lala Lore does a really good job in that story with her acting. There's a couple of things she does I don't like, but there's a lot of stuff she does I do like. Tom Baker's great, just as Tom Baker always is. And I really love that scene when he's talking to the guy on the ship, and the guy's pointing the gun at him, and Tom Baker's just like, "Oh, don't you worry your little head over it. You just focus on holding that gun steady." I love that line. That's just Tom Baker being Tom Baker. And then I love the guy playing Soldeed. My dreams of conquest. I love that. That's just, it's gold. It's gold. I feel bad for anyone who's never seen The Horns of Nimon, because while it is a bad story, it's objectively a bad story, it's so much fun to watch. It has such a rewatchability for me. So if you like those kind of episodes and can enjoy it for what it is, it's a really fun watch. The next one on the list I want to talk about, if you like more horror-themed Doctor Who. And while I could mention something from the Hinchcliffe era, most of those are considered good stories for good reason. Same thing with stuff like Horror of Fang Rock. It's a good story for a good reason. But another one that I think gets overlooked, and I can never understand why some people don't like it, is Paradise Towers. Now, I saw Paradise Towers for the first time, well, I guess technically I should say last year now, and I absolutely loved Paradise Towers. I thought it was a fantastic story, and I can never understand why people crap on season 24 so much, because Paradise Towers is amazing. It's really good. It's got a lot of good stuff going on in it. And I like, there's a lot of good horror in it. You just have to kind of pay attention to the story, because the story does, the visual style is done in that season 24 way where everything's all bright colors and rainbows and all that. But the actual story for Paradise Towers is very, very dark. I mean, if you actually watch it and pay attention and get into the nuts and bolts of the story, really the meaty parts of the story, there's some pretty creepy stuff going on there. And I don't want to get into it because I don't want to really spoil it in case someone hasn't seen it. But there's some pretty horrific stuff going on in Paradise Towers. I think it gets overlooked because it does have that season 24-ness to it, that bright, again, rain. It's like, imagine the Hinchcliffe era, or Midnight, or Blink, with a thin coat of rainbow paint over it. And that's how I describe Paradise Towers. A really good story. I want to go back and rewatch it with the original version of the audio sometime soon. And then the last one I want to talk about, the last story that I think is absolutely fantastic myself. It's a bad Doctor Who story that a lot of people don't like, but I think it's phenomenal, and that's Revenge of the Cybermen. I really like Revenge of the Cybermen. I didn't quite put it in my top 15 stories since that was a subjective and objective list, but it's definitely one of my favorites, and it's very underrated. One of Tom Baker's most underrated stories. I definitely think fans of modern Who should watch this, because the Cybermen are treated way better here than they are almost across the board in modern Who. In modern Who, the Cybermen really don't have that many good outings. They're really good in World Enough and Time when we see them, especially, well, part 1 of the two-parter. They're really good in the Age of Steel two-parter, and I think I like them in the Series 2 finale as well. But for the most part, I don't really like how they're treated. I don't like some of their designs. I don't like how they're almost more like robots at times. I just feel like they don't get the attention they deserve, whereas in Classic Who, they tend to be treated a lot better, with a lot more reverence, like the villains they are, because the Cybermen are a dangerous threat. You know, they're basically the Doctor Who version of the Borg. Well, actually, the Cybermen came first, so the Borg, or the Star Trek version of the Cybermen, would be more accurate. But I do feel like Revenge of the Cybermen is a great story. It's pretty much a not as good version. Wow. I don't know how to say it. Let me switch hands. This arm's getting tired. Revenge of the Cybermen is a lot like Earthshock. It's kind of like a proto-Earthshock, with the main difference being Earthshock is done on a more grand scale. There's an epicness to Earthshock that Revenge doesn't quite have. Plus, Earthshock has its shocking ending, which is kind of an old hat in modern Who, but it was very surprising, and I don't know if controversial is the right word, but it was definitely an interesting move for the Classic series to do it, because it's not something that really happened in Classic Who. And so Earthshock has that. And while I do objectively think Earthshock is better than Revenge of the Cybermen, I don't think it's by as much as most people do. I think Revenge of the Cybermen, you have Tom Baker being great, Sarah and Harry are good in it. I like the Cybermen in it. The Cybermen, you know, they have a plan. I like the B-plot with all the political stuff going on the planet with the Vogons. That's really, really neat. I enjoy all the political stuff going on there. It's a very underrated story. I think it's the most underrated Cybermen story. And most importantly, it is a Cyberman story that remembers that the Cybermen are a threat, that they are dangerous, and that, you know, they can wipe you out. So it treats them with a respect that modern Who usually doesn't. So if you're a modern Who fan and you like the Cybermen for some reason, I really think you should check out Revenge of the Cybermen, because it doesn't get the respect it does. It doesn't get the accolades like Earthshock does, and it should. It honestly should. So that's 3 bad Doctor Who stories that I think every Doctor Who fan should watch. I'd like to know what you think of these stories if you've seen them. Other things to do: click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. My hand is getting so tired. Give a special shout out to 2 of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane and the 5th Doctor. I really appreciate their support, and just as I appreciate the support of all my patrons and all of my subscribers. If you are interested in becoming one of my patrons, there is a link to my Patreon down in the description below. I would really appreciate you checking that out. All sorts of fun little rewards there. Most importantly, though, I also have an Amazon wish list. I just started that as well. So I have an Amazon wish list for some stuff I like. If anyone's interested in sending me anything, there's a link to that down in the description below. Why am I this winded? I barely walk. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.